I remember a Tuesday morning about 6 years ago when I first felt the ground move under me in a way it never had before. I was standing in my kitchen in Knoxville, just trying to reach for a coffee mug on the second shelf. It's a move I'd made 10,000 times without a second thought. But that morning, as I shifted my weight onto my toes, my calves felt like they were made of damp cardboard. There was this sudden, sickening quiver in my quads. And for a split second, I truly believed I was going to end up on the linoleum floor. I had to grab the edge of the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. I stood there for a long minute, heart hammering against my ribs, looking down at my own legs as if they belonged to a stranger. I'd spent 34 years working at the logistics warehouse, moving pallets and walking 5 miles a day on concrete floors. I was the guy people called when something heavy needed shifting. But in that kitchen with a simple coffee mug in my hand, I realized the man I used to be was quietly packing his bags and leaving. Maybe you've had that moment too. Maybe it's that heavy feeling in your knees when you try to get out of the car, or the way the stairs at the mall suddenly look like a mountain you aren't sure you can climb. When I talked to my daughter Megan about it, she didn't look surprised, which actually hurt more than if she'd been shocked. She's an occupational therapist, and she's seen this story play out 1,000 times. She told me that what I was feeling wasn't just getting old. She called it sarcopenia. It's a word that sounds like a storm coming, and in a way it is. She showed me a report that really stopped me in my tracks. It said that once we cross that 60-year-old line, we can lose up to 8% of our muscle mass every single decade if we aren't doing something specific to stop it. And it isn't just about having big muscles like a young kid in the gym. It's about the very cells that keep you upright. It's about the strength that lets you carry your own groceries or lift your grandkid into the air without your back screaming in protest. The part that really got to me was discovering that by the time many of us hit 70 or 80, we've lost nearly 40% of the muscle we had in our prime. That's like trying to run a truck on half its cylinders. But then Megan told me about this doctor from Japan, a man named Dr. Hinohara, who lived to be over 100 years old and was still seeing patients until the very end. He didn't believe in heavy gym routines for seniors. He believed in a specific rhythm of eating that rebuilt the body from the inside out. I'm going to share with you 5 specific morning habits and ingredients I discovered through his work and my own testing that literally put the floor back under my feet. I've narrowed it down to a list of 5, and I've ranked them based on how much of a difference they made for me. I'm even going to tell you about one specific morning ingredient that I saved for the very end of this list because it's the one that finally stopped that shaking in my legs for good. It's something most people in Tennessee would never think to eat for breakfast, but once I started, I never looked back. I'll even show you a friend of mine, a guy named Earl, who thought he was destined for a wheelchair until he changed just this one thing in his morning routine. But you have to listen closely because if you don't get the timing right, your body won't even absorb the nutrients and you'll just be wasting your time. I've spent the last few years turned into a bit of a student of my own body, watching how these changes affected me and the men I worked with at the warehouse. I've never been much for fancy diets or health fads. I'm a meat and potatoes man at heart. But after that scare in the kitchen, and after seeing my buddy Miller lose his independence so fast after a fall, I realized that my pride wasn't going to keep me out of a nursing home. I've spent the better part of 73 years learning that the hardest work isn't always with your hands. Sometimes it's the work you do to keep your body capable of working. I've talked to hundreds of seniors over the years, folks who feel like they're just waiting for the inevitable decline. But I'm standing here today to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way. I'm stronger now at 73 than I was at 65, and it didn't come from lifting a single heavy barbell. It came from understanding what my muscle cells were starving for every morning. The first thing I had to wrap my head around was something called fermented soy. Now in Japan, they eat this stuff called natto. When Megan first showed it to me, I thought she was playing a joke. It's sticky. It smells a bit like old cheese, and it has a texture that most of us in Knoxville wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. But Megan explained that it's one of the only ways to get a massive dose of vitamin K2 and a specific enzyme that cleans out your circulation. You see, your muscles can't rebuild if the blood can't get to them. It's like trying to water a garden with a kinked hose. I couldn't find natto easily, so I started using high-quality fermented soy like tempeh or even just making sure I had a bit of miso. The secret here is the fermentation. It breaks the protein down so our older stomachs can actually handle it. I remember reading a study that showed seniors who ate fermented soy regularly had much higher bone density and better muscle retention than those who just ate regular beans or meat. I have a friend named Earl, 72 years old, who used to work the loading docks with me. Earl had gotten to the point where he couldn't walk from his front door to his mailbox without his calves cramping up so bad he'd have to lean against the fence. He thought it was just poor circulation from old age. I finally convinced him to try adding some fermented soy to his morning routine, just a little bit mixed with his eggs. He grumbled about the taste for a week, but by the third week he called me up sounding like a different man. He'd walked all the way down to the creek behind his house and back. He said his legs didn't feel tight anymore. That's what happens when you give your muscle cells the enzymes they need to actually breathe. It's about opening up those pathways that have been closing down for years. Next on my list is something I used to take for granted when I was out fishing as a kid, and that's sardines. I know having fish for breakfast sounds like a strange way to start a Tennessee morning, but these little oily fish are like rocket fuel for aging muscles. They're packed with omega-3s, which Megan tells me are the best things for fighting the silent fire of inflammation in our joints and muscles. As we get older, our bodies stay in a state of constant low-grade inflammation. It's like having a slow leak in your engine oil. Over time, that inflammation just eats away at your muscle fibers. Sardines also have vitamin D and calcium in a form that our bodies can actually use. Most of the supplements you buy at the drugstore just end up in the toilet. But the nutrients in these small fish go straight to where they're needed. There's a lady in our neighborhood named Ruth, 75, who's been a widow for 10 years. She loves her garden, but she started noticing her balance was getting shaky. She'd go to prune her roses and feel like she was tilting to one side. She was terrified of falling and breaking a hip, which we all know is the beginning of the end for folks our age. She started eating just half a tin of sardines a few mornings a week, mixed into her morning toast. A month later, I saw her out there on her knees in the dirt, steady as a rock. She told me her mind felt sharper too, but the biggest change was her coordination. Those omega-3s don't just build muscle, they protect the nerves that tell the muscles when to fire. If the wiring in your house is frayed, it doesn't matter how good the light bulbs are. Sardines fix the wiring. Now, number 3 is one that really surprised me because I used to think it was just something that got stuck to the bottom of my boat. I'm talking about seaweed. Linda, my wife, started adding dried seaweed flakes to our morning broth after she read a magazine article about the blue zones where people live to be over 100. I thought it was just decoration, but it turns out seaweed is loaded with magnesium, potassium, and iodine. These are the minerals that control how your muscles contract and relax. If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night with a cramp in your calf that feels like someone is stabbing you with a hot poker, you likely have a mineral deficiency. Seaweed fills those gaps better than any pill I've ever seen. I have a cousin named Bill, 68, who struggled with heavy legs for years. He said every step felt like he was walking through deep mud. He was tired all the time, even if he slept 8 hours. Linda gave him a bag of those Dulce flakes and told him to sprinkle them on his eggs every morning. About 2 weeks later, Bill came over to help me move some old tires in the garage. He was moving faster than I'd seen him move in a decade. He told me the heaviness was gone. It's because his thyroid, which controls his metabolism and energy, was finally getting the iodine it needed to run the engine. When your metabolism is running right, your body stops burning its own muscle for energy and starts building it back up. The 4th thing on my list is something so simple we usually overlook it: sesame seeds. These little seeds are a powerhouse of calcium and healthy fats. But more importantly, they have these compounds called lignans that help balance our hormones as we age. Most men don't like to talk about it, but our hormones start dropping off a cliff after 50, and that's a major reason why the muscle just seems to melt away no matter how much we walk. Sesame seeds help your liver process things better and keep your joints lubricated. I started grinding them up and putting them in my morning oatmeal or over my eggs, and I noticed a real difference in how my knees felt when I first got out of bed. My friend Jim, who's 71 and used to be a high school coach, had such bad joint pain he'd stopped walking his dog in the mornings. He told me his hinges were rusted. I got him to start using ground sesame seeds every single morning. He called me about 6 weeks later and said he'd walked 2 miles that morning without taking a single aspirin. He noticed his legs felt sturdier, and the clicking in his ankles had stopped. It's because those seeds provide the building blocks for the connective tissue that holds your muscles to your bones. If your tendons are weak, your muscles can't do their job. It's like trying to pull a trailer with a frayed rope. You need that strength at the connection points, and sesame seeds provide exactly that. Before I get to the most important one, the ingredient that really changed the game for me, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were just watching yourself disappear? Like you look in the mirror and you see your father or your grandfather looking back, and you realize you have the same thin arms and the same shuffling gait. It's a lonely feeling, isn't it? I'm telling you this because I want you to know that I've been there staring at that coffee mug and wondering if my best days were behind me. But they aren't. And if you're finding some hope in what I'm saying, I'd love to hear from you. We're all walking this path together, and I want to know that I'm not the only one who refused to just sit down and give up. Now, the final ingredient, the one that Dr. Hinohara and the centenarians in Okinawa swear by, is the sweet potato, specifically the purple ones if you can find them. I know having a potato for breakfast sounds like something you'd only do if you were trying to gain weight, but that's not how it works. Sweet potatoes are full of complex carbs that don't spike your blood sugar, but they're also loaded with antioxidants that protect your muscle cells from being broken down. They have this resistant starch that feeds the good bacteria in your gut. Megan explained to me that if your gut isn't healthy, it doesn't matter how much protein you eat. Your body can't absorb it. It just passes right through you while your muscles stay hungry. I started eating a small steamed sweet potato every morning, usually with a little bit of that ground sesame I mentioned. I can tell you, within a month, the wobble I felt in my kitchen that Tuesday morning was completely gone. I felt grounded. I felt like my legs were actually part of me again, not just two sticks I was trying to balance on. My son, Derek, who owns an HVAC business, noticed it too. He told me, "Dad, you're moving like you did back at the warehouse." And he was right. I wasn't just moving, I was thriving. I could carry the heavy toolboxes when he needed a hand, and I could play tag with my grandkids in the backyard for an hour without needing to go sit in my recliner. The reason sweet potatoes work so well is that they give your muscles a steady stream of energy all morning long. Most of us eat a piece of toast or some cereal, our blood sugar shoots up, and then it crashes an hour later. When it crashes, your body enters emergency mode and starts breaking down your own muscle tissue to keep your brain running. It's like burning the wood from your own house to keep the fireplace going. Sweet potatoes stop that process. They tell your body you're safe. You have plenty of fuel. You can keep the muscle you have. For someone over 60, that is the most important message your body can receive. I've seen this change so many lives in my circle. I think about a man from my church named Arthur, 82 years old. Arthur was using a cane for everything, even just walking from the pew to the parking lot. He started having a small sweet potato with his breakfast every day. 2 months later, I saw him walking into the service without the cane. He was moving a little slow, sure, but he was doing it on his own power. He told me he felt satisfied for the first time in years. He didn't feel that constant gnawing weakness in his thighs anymore. That's what happens when you stop starving your muscles and start nourishing them with what they actually need. It all comes down to rhythm and consistency. You can't just do this once and expect a miracle. You have to make it a ritual. Dr. Hinohara used to say that we should treat our morning meal like a restoration project. You aren't just eating, you're rebuilding the house you live in. I start every morning now by sitting down, taking a deep breath, and eating these foods with intention. I don't rush. I chew slowly. I think about the strength moving from my stomach into my legs. It sounds a bit out there for a warehouse guy, I know, but I'm telling you, it works. My legs don't shake anymore. My balance is better than it was 10 years ago. And more than anything, I'm not afraid of the floor anymore. You see, muscle loss after 60 isn't a death sentence. It's just a sign that your body is changing the rules of the game. If you keep playing by the old rules, eating the same processed stuff and ignoring the signs, you're going to lose. But if you learn the new rules, if you give your body these specific morning ingredients like fermented soy, sardines, seaweed, sesame seeds, and sweet potatoes, you can actually turn the clock back. You can find that foundation again. You can be the person who still carries the groceries, who still works in the garden, and who still picks up the grandkids. I want you to try just one of these this week. Maybe it's just adding some sesame seeds to your eggs, or trying a sweet potato for breakfast instead of toast. Just give your body one signal that you're ready to start building again. Don't let your independence slip away just because nobody told you how to keep it. You've got too much life left to live to spend it sitting on the sidelines. I'm going to keep looking for these answers, and I'm going to keep sharing them with you because I want all of us to stay strong after 60. Your engine isn't gone, it's just waiting for the right fuel to start up again. I'm 73 years old today, and I'm not done yet. Not by a long shot. I'm still out in my garage, still walking the neighborhood, and still looking forward to every single morning. It started with that one scary moment in the kitchen, but it led me to a strength I didn't think was possible at my age. I want that for you too. If you've got questions about how I prepare these things or what else Megan has been teaching me, just leave a comment below. I read every single one of them, and I'll do my best to help you out. We're in this together. Take care of those legs, and I'll see you soon. The road ahead is a lot easier when you trust the feet you're walking on. I've seen what happens when we give up, and I've seen what happens when we fight back with just a little bit of knowledge and a lot of consistency. I'm choosing the fight, and I hope you'll join me. Your strength is your freedom, and your freedom is worth every bite. I'm Russell Carter, and I'm glad you're here with me. Let's keep moving forward, one steady step at a time. I'll be right here if you need me.